think that at the very first level, we have to have that it is important to understand some kind of the parameters that packaging is consisting. The first one is safety, and how can we have a safe and proper product by packing date, by best before the date, by list of ingredients visible on the package. And the second one is the part of the attractiveness for the consumer in order to have this product. 2/3 of the people confirm that packaging affects their buying decision. In this regard, I think that it is obvious that we have to understand that packaging is essential, especially at the food industry, without compromising in terms of food safety and hygiene. But also, we would like to have your contribution, and it is important to have stakeholders' contribution in order to commit to reduce excessive packaging and to develop more efficient and circular packaging solutions, as well as to encourage initiatives like Circular Plastic Alliance and plastic packs. It is important to go hand by hand, not only to have the proper legislation, but also to have the proper implementation and the engagement of the consumers in this regard. Well, I would like to start with from the point that Werner stops in order to confirm that, unfortunately, according to OECD report, last year plastic recycling continues to be an economically marginal activity. And I would like to underline this. It is an economically marginal activity. And of course, there are a lot of reasons focusing on the diverse set of materials that we face in terms of recycling plastic. You know, it is poor availability, it is the low quality, it is the profitability of the plastic waste, which is very low. And in this regard, I think that we are facing in a lack of investments as well, a lack of investments in waste management infrastructure and in recycling technology. I think that the circular economy is the way for the EU and the European companies to remain competitiveness at the global market by providing recyclable plastics, by providing recyclable packaging, by providing reusable packaging. Therefore, I think that direct investments are needed to scale up the circular economy initiatives focusing on packaging. And it's not only the PET or the HDPE. I mean that we need more. We need greater investments in the development of recycling technology, and it is a key to achieve the EU circular economy targets. I think circularity is the point in this regard, and not only recycling the packaging as we know. I think that we face two main barriers. Allow me to make some kind of parameters in this regard. The first one is that the consumers are not very well aware on the concept of circularity. 84% of the consumers feel bad about throwing things away, according to a study by GlobeScan. At the same time, they are not very familiar with the procedure of circularity. So it is important to have a kind of framework in order to have a common collaborative action between different stakeholders, from citizens, private initiatives, entrepreneurs, NGOs, policymakers, academia. And this is the first. The second one, and I think it is of paramount importance, is the creation of a well-functioning at EU-level market for secondary materials. And it is a necessary precondition for reducing Europe's dependency on primary sources, and in this regard, for strengthening the strategic autonomy, for competitiveness, and for increasing the implementation of circular economy action plan. I think that we need both the engagement of the people and the creation and the stability of a second raw material market. I come from Greece. We landfill approximately 80% of our waste, so it is important to increase the rates. And to start with, I think that we have the proper legislation, but we have to go forward by doing something more, by harmonizing legal requirements, for facilitating the economy of scale, especially on waste management. And of course, by having long-term investments, by using also sources coming from next generation in EU. Focusing on the issue as such, I think that Philip has already told that we have to engage people. And it is important to say that we have to create a new mindset which will be based on deposit refund schemes, and also to extend responsibility, to extend producer responsibility schemes. In this regard, I think we will have a much more efficient candidates of collection of plastics, different sectors of plastic. And at the same time, it is important to understand that we have to increase the engagement of the people by using schemes like deposit refund schemes, market-based. It is also important to have incentives. It is important to have target incentives that they will facilitate the producers to work by closed loop and not to work in an open loop as it is now. And the best incentive, according to my opinion, for the companies to use recycled materials in their products might be from a reputational standpoint rather than through increased regulation. Indeed, we can guarantee it by setting standards, by setting sufficient standards that they will be implementing by all stakeholders involved. And I think this is very, very easy to do. It is easy to have the proper legislation. We have already have it in a huge part. But allow me to go ahead with the main question, because I hear Philip very, very carefully, but I cannot share his optimism to the future for 2030. I think we have to do more. I think we have, first of all, to streamline the legislation and to monitor the implementation for every and each member state and region. It is important also to involve stakeholders and to encourage them to adapt best practices. As an example, I think that Nestlé is a pioneer in this regard on packaging, and I think that we have to follow best practices in this regard. Of course, to raise awareness to the consumers and to engage consumers with market-based model like deposit refund schemes, and to have significant, much more in terms of candidate extended producer responsibility schemes, in order finally to have an economically activity which is profitably and not economically marginal activity such as recycling plastic right now.